Utah area. It arrived this morning, snarling up freeways everywhere, and I understand my guest is on the way. So we'll wait and see if he gets here or if you're just going to, we're just going to chat. You can find us in a chat room, pat.utahvalleylive.com. Appreciate your comments or your questions, and we'll try and answer them and communicate with you. I do have someone manning the computer, so chat with us. Also, welcome if you're on KHQN 1480 AM. We're happy to have you with us this morning. Appreciate your being there. I bundled up warm. I've got my boots on, found them, polished them up this morning, and I'm wearing a cape. I love capes because they're easy to move around in, and they're wool and they're warm. And between the lights and the cape, I might stop shivering. Thanks for being with us. I want to start out by thanking and telling you a little bit more about Kyani. I've got some time this morning to do that. About July 2010, I had the good fortune to meet people who were in Kyani, Kyani. And if you look that up on your computer, it's kyani.net or Patricia's with an S, patricias.kyani.net. And read about who the folks are that own this company and what they're doing. And I'll tell you just a little bit briefly about them. The three owners of the company were already millionaires, and together they are billionaires. And they really had no idea they were going to do this, but they ran into some people up in Idaho who did not have words in their language for all of the illnesses that we have, heart disease, diabetes, fibromyalgia, and the list goes on and on. They found also there were other people researching these tribes there, and they wanted to know why. Of course, it came to be their diet. That's what they discovered, and they found out ways of that they could then take the things they learned there and bottle it and make it possible for us to be as healthy as the folks were there. So let's start with a Kyani Sunrise, which you take in the morning, hence the name Sunrise. It is basically minerals and vitamins in a bottle with a lot of Alaskan blueberries from the tundra. Now, these blueberries are larger than what we have here because they're in extreme weather. And so they have, and they're very, very red on the inside. They're filled with antioxidants, amazing amounts of antioxidants, which is what makes this drink very powerful and very successful. So I started taking this the very first morning that after I had signed up in Kyani as a distributor, which, by the way, you can be a customer, not get involved in the business end at all, or you can become a distributor, which I did. I have been CEO of 5 network marketing companies. I know what goes on behind the scenes, and I know what goes on as a distributor. So as an executive in a company, I looked very carefully before I got involved with these products. So the second product that I took was the evening product. The second one I became acquainted with was the Sunset, which you take in the evening. That is sockeye salmon from the Alaskan waters. These are pure waters, probably the purest left on the earth. And the sockeye salmon is so beautiful. It has color. They don't have to add pink to it, so that it'll make it more interesting when you buy it at the store. It's naturally that color. And the omega-3, which is the fish oil, is absolutely pure and clear. And it's guaranteed not to have any mercury in it. So you have this wonderful fish oil. I take 3 of the little capsules around dinner or a little later, and which is sunrise, and then or sunset, and then I take the sunrise in the morning. Well, in between those two, there's a product called Nitric FX and Nitric Extreme. This is an amazing product to me. I had reached a point where I was ready to retire. I wanted to take a nap in the afternoon. I didn't want to work 14 hours a day. I was becoming a shut-in. And I didn't walk as much anymore because everything hurt. I had arthritis, I had diabetes, I had high blood pressure, I had high cholesterol, and I had had these different illnesses for 14 years. I was spending over $300 a month on my medications and not feeling good. Well, where do you go? Nobody knows. So when I was introduced to these products, I was skeptical, along with others, which I'm sure there are and have been. But on the third day, my blood sugars were way low. So I called the doctor and I said, and I've never had my blood sugars be this low when I've tested my fingers. So I was diabetic type 2, type B. And so he said, well, what are you doing? And I told him, and he said, well, you better stop taking the medication or stop taking the product. Well, of course, I decided not to take the medication. And then about 2 weeks later, the nitric oxide triggers your body, cleans it up, clears it out, gives you energy. It makes it possible for everything to work and open up. The brain cells open up, you think clear, the heart valves, everything functions. It just simply cleans the body, and you begin producing nitric oxide, which is the molecule of life. Now, we stop producing that when we're around, 30. It gets less and less and less in our 40s, less in our 50s, and so forth. So when we get older, we start looking for a nap and or go to bed earlier, or we don't do as many have as many activities in our life. Well, now I had been taking all of these products for about 2.5 weeks, and my blood pressure was too low. I called my doctor, and he said, "You know what? I think the products have lowered your blood pressure, and if that's true, then your cholesterol is probably okay." So I stopped the cholesterol medication, the blood pressure medication, and the diabetic medication. Okay, now I feel better already. Well, I was taking some medication for pain for arthritis. And those on the radio, you can't see this, but I don't know if you can see my hands, but they're deformed. I used to be a hand model. I was a model for many years, and one of the things I modeled, as well as runway and print and TV and all kinds of things, I did hand modeling. I had long, thin fingers. Well, they're not that way anymore. So about by the end of that month, I was running up and down stairs, and I grabbed hold of the railing and realized it didn't hurt. My knees didn't hurt. And when I got in the car, I could make a grip on the steering wheel, which I hadn't been able to do for years. I just kind of had to hold it with the forefinger and the thumb. Everything else hurt. Pain was gone. Pain was absolutely gone. By the end of July 2010, I was off of all medications, and that was what, 14, 15 months ago? And I've had no medications whatsoever since then. Am I a walking example of this? And I'm not telling you my age, that's a secret, but you would be surprised. These products have worked for me. I now can outwalk, outrun, outswim. I'm not climbing yet. I'm not back on a bicycle full time, but I'm working on it. Well, I'm on a stationary bike. How's that? Can't fall over on that one. But these products work, and I put them in my food storage. I order them every month on auto ship. It's made a difference in my life. Last year, about, well, 12 months ago, they have a ranking in this company and their compensation plan, and I reached that ranking. And then just for a perk, in July, they announced anybody at that ranking was going to receive a $40,000 Audi. Okay, well, that's waiting for me to pick up. And that can happen for you too. And I'm looking forward to that happening for you. So if you're interested in getting involved in Kyana, either as a distributor so you will feel better, you certainly want to try it. By the way, there's a guarantee. If you come into the company within 30 days, if the product has not helped you, you feel like it's not going to, they will give you back the cost of the product. You do have to ship the bottles back to them, but they'll give you back on your credit card. They're located in Idaho Falls. They're good people. I'm right here in the Provo, Utah Valley area. And the number to call to chat with me and talk about these products is 801 362 9552. 801 362 9552. And I'll tell you more about the folks that are involved, who they are. If you order today, it's shipped, you get it tomorrow. And unless you're on the East Coast, then it takes another day. California takes 1 day. But if you're in Utah, it's usually 1 day delivery. Order 1 day, you get it the next day. It's $120 a month if you're a distributor for the product. I remember when I paid $120 for one product, and it's exciting to have 3 that work. I mentioned the Nitro FX and the Nitro Extreme. The FX I take throughout the day. The Nitro Extreme, a lot of athletes are taking that, particularly about 15 minutes before they work out or they get into a race. Their energy is, it gives a really nice boost. It's made partially of the noni root and leaves, and it truly opens up the body. I retired from radio. I was on for 20 years locally, and I retired 5 or 6 years ago. I said, okay, I'm through, because I was having trouble remembering phone numbers and addresses, and I thought, well, I can't do that. I'm starting to shut down. Wrong. It's all changed. I'm back on the air because I have confidence that I don't need a script, that my brain is working the way it was 20, 25 years ago. I'd like to think I'm wiser, but the brain is working good, and I'm grateful for that. So that's the Kyani. We're grateful for them. I also have some folks that have been on the air with me, and they're going to be coming up with their own shows, and I thought we'd talk just a little bit about that. Um, Julia Curry has been on with me on Mondays. She's going to be on assignment this Monday for the Utah Valley Convention Center and Tourism Bureau. But she's going to spin off her own show. We're hoping to have that. She is just full of adventure, so it's going to be fun to watch and also to listen to because she's going to be out and about. Of course, if you need to book anything anywhere, the number to get hold of her, boy, she is busy for the holidays, and you'll want to get hold of her if you're having an activity that you want to invite the public to, or if you are having a reunion, got a lot of people coming in town, she can get you reduced rates at various hotels. If you need a convention area, she can do that for you also. The number to call is 851 2100, 801 851 2100 to get hold of Julia Curry. And then I'm meeting with Verl Osmond this afternoon. He's been on the air with me. What does he call himself? Let's see. He is George Verl Osmond Jr., and he is the oldest of all of the Osmond kids. Of course, Donnie and Marie are younger brother and sister. He's been on the air. We've been talking about what he could do, can do, and he's all involved with charities. Wants to share more of that with you, and especially around the world. So he's going to be maybe doing a show at least once a week by himself, but possibly every day. And he's got some people he'll bring on with him. So we've got that coming up to look forward to. Also have Monica Barber. She was on once with us. She's a professional from the Monterey Bay area. She's been on television and radio for many years there, and she's going to be handling her own show here locally. That's going to be interesting and a lot of fun. She's got some good plans going for that. And probably the one that's the most interesting to interview, perhaps most challenging would be a better word, is Joy Bischoff. Joy is a student, has been years of Hugh Nibley. And certainly anyone that has ever sat in his lecture or read one of his books realizes that to know Hugh Nibley is to study him, to study what he studied. And she has done that. She has spent many years now going through his journals, his diaries, his papers of all kinds, his books. And she is going to be coming on. It looks like we're going to have her every day. So we're excited about that because she's got good information, and she spins off of that into a little company she started with Magna Quartz, of how these various magnets and stones can protect us from the radiation in the air. Very interesting subject. As a matter of fact, Joy has a seminar coming up this Saturday on the 4th. She's going to be at a home, so you do have to email her because we don't want to give that address out generally to the public. But if you will email her at understandingnibley@gmail.com, just let her know that you are interested in coming and joining that seminar. It starts at 8:30 with a registration, and then she begins speaking at 9. Bring a sack lunch, prepared to order out, as some of us are going to do. And it's going to be interesting. For $25, you'll be there from about 8:30 until about 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon. It will be a wonderful educational day. Bring your laptops, type as fast as you can. I don't think she's going to allow tape recorders, but you can certainly take notes. She, however, is bringing part of that seminar to be on streaming video on pat.utahvalleylive.com. She'll also be on the radio on KHQN 1480 AM. And so that will be really exciting for all of us. So all of your friends, let them know about this event happening on this Saturday coming up, November 5th at 8:30 in the morning. It's going to be in the North Provo area. The home is near the River Bottoms area. So email her at understandingnibley@gmail.com. The cost is $25. Please, no children under 14. No babes in arms because it's a little tight area. Oh, she's limited seating, so get hold of her right now as quick as possible. And we are moving our offices. We've been out in West Provo, and now we're going to be downtown Provo. I worked for many years, about 18 years, with the Utah County Journal, and which is in Orem, was in Orem, and I also worked with the Chamber of Commerce. And for a number of years, I was worked downtown Provo, and I loved it. I'm also going to be going to Spanish Fork, to Salem, all up and down the freeway to visit every little city in Utah County. We want to talk to you about perhaps being a sponsor for one of our shows, running some commercials, joining us for some of the other things we're going to be doing. We have a lot of restaurants all up and down the Utah Valley area, and some of them are just wonderful. In fact, most of them are really good restaurants. I was driving through Springville the other day and hadn't realized that Maggleby's had moved down there to the Springville area. Well, that's a great restaurant. Loved Doc for years and appreciated all that they've done for our community. So now being downtown Provo will be great. We're just off the corner of Center Street and University Avenue, and we'll be there next week. We think if we can get Comcast to get us hooked up, then we will be there. So we look forward to meeting you there, perhaps for lunch. If you're interested in doing your own radio show, we certainly want to talk about that and what your subject would be. I do have lots of hours yet that we can fill up, and you might be just the very one we're looking for. I'm particularly looking for students and for those that want to come on and talk about anything they want to do through the night, through midnight. My guest has arrived in spite of the freeway. He has gotten here, so I'll let him take a breath, sit down, and he's brought lots of books to talk about. Thank you for listening to me and being with me this morning a little bit. And my guest is Boyd Tuttle, straight out of the car and off the freeway.
Well, exciting times here in Utah Valley, isn't it?
It is. We were talking yesterday about all the things going on in Utah Valley, and it's absolutely amazing. Well, first of all, did you get through Halloween?
We got through Halloween. The kids were all dressed up last night, and we had a great little experience going out.
You missed yesterday. I was in a witch's outfit with the hat, black wig, the whole works. Well, I was scary. I opened the door, and the kids went, "Oh!" I scared them. Okay, my guest is Boyd Tuttle, and I'm going to let you start out. I'm going to start out by letting him tell about his company, which I talked to him on the phone for a number of times, and we finally met at the LDS Booksellers Convention. August, was it this past year?
Yeah, just
in August. And was very taken with his authors and what he was doing for them. That's how we got involved. And so now we feature his authors, people that he's published books for, on the air. With that, take it away.
Great. Thanks. Good to be here, Pat. I'm honored to have this little chance to visit with you and talk about Digital Legend Press. A lot of people never heard of it, and so we're excited to talk about it a little bit. I am passionate about the books that I publish. I was never a literary person. I didn't graduate in English. I was an engineering major,
really?
Actually.
I didn't know that.
Graduated degree in engineering. Went to work for Xerox back in New York. About 10 years into that, they sent us to Japan. I was running manufacturing in our Japanese operations for about 5 years, and then came back. And I've done a variety of things in my career, I guess you could say, my first life. And
in your second life.
Yeah, now I'm well into my second life. And I guess the thing that kind of inspired me after getting back from Japan, I was, I don't know, you get a little bit of a bug when you go overseas, and you're kind of looking for new adventures and new exciting things. And when I came back to the corporate world, it wasn't quite giving it to me, and so I did the insane thing and retired early from a very cushy corporate position with Xerox. And it's been the thing that's made all the difference.
Really?
I've had just a wonderful experience since
So
then.
when did you actually come up with the name Digital Legend Press? When did that all begin to come together? I mean, did you know a lot of authors to start with?
No.
Do you long to write a book? There's a book in every one of us, they tell us, you know.
I think at the end of this whole experience, I may have a book to write, but in the meantime, I am finding wonderful authors with great stories to tell. When I started, I was coming off my Xerox experience, using some of the things that I was witnessing in the world that I circulated in were breakthroughs in printing technology. And in that, it really came down to something that we call direct printing or flash printing, or we often talk about print on demand. But this was really a step beyond print on demand. It was
really?
actually
not even using the wrong term.
Well, it actually was a concept that I and my print partner back in New York co-developed, and it's something we call real-time printing, which is we don't actually print the book until the order is received.
Okay.
Now that's unheard of.
Okay,
Generally,
so
you
let
buy
me be a bookstore. So I email or call and I say, I've heard about this book. I'm interested in it. I want 6.
Yeah. I will just go right on my computer. I can even do it from my phone. And I can enter your order for 6 copies. I put in your address. from a drop down that'll already have your address in there and click 6 copies of this book, or I can put 2, 3 of those, 5 of these, 6 of those, and click go. And within 24 hours, those books are in a mailer on its way to you.
Wow.
So it's a whole new concept.
And so no one has to have 5,000 books stacked up in their garage and hope they sell.
I have had horror stories that you wouldn't believe.
Oh, come on, we want to hear one.
It would put that witch's hair back on your head, I'm afraid. No, I have people come to me and just, they're sad. It's sad stories because they really had a great idea. They thought it was everybody wanted their book, because unfortunately our friends are not always honest with us when we present our books to them, and they say, "Oh, this is wonderful. Everyone will buy this."
Call me, I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm serious. But I did find out, because I was involved with Cedar Fort for a while, a couple of other places, and I did find out that everyone has different tastes. We would all read. We read books. We read scripts. I learned this at the Motion Picture Studio when I was out there, BYU Motion Picture Studio. People thought they had written the best manuscript that ever was going to be produced on film or by book. Yeah, maybe not. And maybe the person sitting next to me read the same thing and, oh, they thought it was wonderful. So that was the first experience I'd had, those experiences of the differences. How we feel about a book we read is how we feel. It's what we feel while we're reading that book, which may not be logical whatsoever.
No, it's not. And it's very difficult to predict. I have a chief editor that I send all my manuscripts to, and he has been just a gem when it comes to picking winners. Okay. And so, but
that's why you're here. I don't bring non-winners on the air with
me. Well,
me.
he has picked, I send manuscripts. I just don't have time. I would love to read every book that I publish cover to cover, and I don't have the time, but he's like a speed reader, and he can take that and he'll come back to me and say, this one's just, maybe we'll send this enough to the self-publishing space and let them work it. Or he'll come back to me and give me the thumbs up. And
good.
Whenever we get the thumbs up, we've gone ahead with those, and we've had remarkably good success with the number of titles that we've put out. But using the technology that we have, we're relatively protected in terms of the risk. So we don't go out and print 1,000 books and then hope to sell them. We will publish it, and we'll get the word out on it, and we'll promote it, and then see. And if the orders come in, we'll then do the printing and
okay, so let's say the person has come, they have a book, they get an okay on it, thumbs up, and now it has to go to the art director for cover, and it has to go to the typesetter, and it has to go to whoever's correcting the content and the grammatical stuff, and then sooner or later, within the year, somewhere 6 months to a year, it finally comes together. Now, who do you send these out to? Do these go out to big bookstores across the country, or mostly LDS bookstores, or how does that work?
Yeah, right now we've got about 90 titles in print, which for a small publisher,
that was pretty good you're getting to be a bigger publisher.
Well, I was going to say, I'm still a small publisher, but for a small publisher, that's a very large number of titles to be actively in print and in production. I would say out of those 90, 50 of those are actively selling today. Most of the sales that we're seeing today are into the LDS market, although I'll tell you a little bit in a minute about another deal that went nationwide just last week.
Ooh, good.
So the LDS market has adopted, particularly Deseret Book, has adopted over 50 of the titles that Digital Legend publishes, which is, again, kind of remarkable for a small.
Book doesn't do anything if they don't publish it. Good for you.
We're happy about that. We've seen tremendous growth in the last 2 years. We went from 2 titles at Deseret Book to over 50 titles there now. And so
congratulations.
We've seen some good growth there, and I have to credit the authors who have. And again, I have never advertised. I don't put out my name and say, hey, come to me and publish with me. I've never done that. How do they find
you? Word of mouth.
It's all been word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
And in fact, if I did advertise, it would be overwhelming. I already have a 6-month backlog with manuscripts that we've approved that we want to publish, and I keep saying, no more. This is it. This is the last one.
So I shouldn't say to you, if you have a book, get hold of him.
But you will anyway.
Do you want to give out your phone number or your email? I mean, you may just have a movie right here ready to go.
We have. I turned down more than I accept these days, which was not always the case. But the interesting thing is that good manuscripts will somehow bubble to the top, and they will eventually make their way to me. And even though I'll say no more this year, no more next year, I will be. And I'll give you a good example. American Covenant, The American Covenant by Tim Ballard. I had said no more manuscripts for 2010 or for 2011, and I got this manuscript. I got the proposal for this manuscript, and I was just blown away by what his thesis was. You know, sometimes I feel like the patent officer in 1860 who said, we're going to close the patent office because everything that's been invented that can be invented has been invented, right? Sometimes I feel that way with books. I mean, who could write another book on, American history? There's so many out there. Tim Ballard knocked this one out of the park. I had never had it expressed this way. And what his thesis was is that the Abrahamic covenant is fulfilled in the establishment of the United States of America. I'd never thought of it that way. I thought, well, the founders did some amazing things and they established freedom. No, 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 no. They established a covenant with a land, with a constitution that was blessed by the Lord, and that it was a fulfillment of Genesis 49:22, when the Lord said through his servant Jacob to his grandson Joseph, "Thou shalt be a fruitful bough, by the well, whose branches run over the wall." Now, as Latter-day Saints, we've always interpreted that as being, well, the Book of Mormon peoples, Manasseh came over, son of Joseph, and established themselves and, created this second witness. But have we ever stopped to realize that Joseph had another son named Ephraim? And he too received that same blessing. George Washington, when he gave his first when he was sworn in to office the first time, asked for a Bible. So he put his hand on the Bible, but he wasn't content to put his hand on the surface of the Bible. He instead opened it. Now, historians will tell you that was purely random. Guess where it was? Genesis 49, verse 22.
That wasn't random.
That wasn't random. And so, Tim has gone through and found all of these amazing correlations about, the founders, that they knew, they understood what they were doing. They understood they were the children of immigrants who had come to this nation seeking religious freedom. They were people who saw themselves as establishing a new Israel in the latter days. They were the children of those people. The Pilgrims came over. They established cities like Salem and New Salem and Jerusalem. I mean, that they understood that they were a biblically based people. They were a covenant people. And some of their earliest writings talk about we, the people of the covenant, under God. They were talking about that when they were establishing their initial governmental establishments. So anyway, that was a manuscript that came to me last year. And again, that one has really gone.
I want to talk a little bit about that because I met Tim Ballard. I thought he was maybe 19. He looks like a kid. And he's got this effervescent personality. He's slightly off the floor all the time, at least 1 foot. A lot of enthusiasm. And we chatted for a few minutes, and I said, let's do something together. What are you working on? And he's going to be making a docudrama. He's looking to raise $100,000. If you'd like to get involved in that deal, you certainly can. Tim is going to be here. He had to cancel this. I think he was going to be here shortly, but now he's had to put it off until December. Do you know the dates on that he's going to be back in town for sure?
It's the 5th and the 6th.
The 5th and 6th of December. We really want you to mark that down because we're going to be in a public venue somewhere in the Provo-Orem area. This is a marvelous book. It is so timely. And we've got to get up and make things happen. This state has the worst turnout for people registered of anywhere in the United States. Now we've got to stop that foolishness. And this book will get you off your bottom and out the door because he ties it all together. We have an obligation.
We do.
This is not just a book. We have an obligation. Now, is his second volume
the second volume
a sister to this one?
I'm happy to say volume 2 will come out in 3 weeks, just before Thanksgiving. Just before
it was right before he gets in town.
It'll be ready.
So he's going to be here the 5th and 6th. We're going to have him on the air with us. And then that evening, we're going to fill up a venue. It's free. It's going to be free to come.
Free.
Plan on buying a book.
Bring your friends.
I will wrestle you to the floor because you should read this. It's not just because Tim's a great guy, a terrific person, charming, good looking, great on his feet, but because he has written something that we'll all wish we had written, and we certainly need to know what's in there.
I had an interesting phone call yesterday about this book. I had a gentleman I've never talked to before. He called me from Idaho, 79 years old. Very well read, very distinguished individual. And he said, "Are you the publisher of that book?" And I said, "I am." And he said, "I want to compliment you." I said, "Well, you compliment the author." He said, "Chapter 9 in that book is the best thing I've ever read on masonry and the ancient symbols of the temple and the covenant as found in the United States among the founders. He says, and I believe me, I've read everything there is out there.
My goodness.
And he said that Tim has done the best research I've ever seen on that. So that was a big endorsement from, again, a distinguished individual.
I cannot give names, and I shouldn't say this, but there's some hierarchy in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that have absolutely found this book remarkable. They're excited about it. They never endorse anything, so they can't do that. But they think it's a great read. How about I put it that way?
Safe.
They think it's a great, yeah, I'm safe there. But you want to be part of this. We're also going to be doing those same 2 days. We're going to be having a seminar up in the Salt Lake City area also. So he will be available those evenings. We're going to find venue here and in Salt Lake, and we want all of you to tell all of your friends who tell all of their friends who tell all. We'd like to have 500 people there.
Easily. Yeah, and we could. We've filled every venue.
And the one here in Utah Valley,
before.
right here in Utah Valley.
Absolutely.
So I've got Julia Curry working on a place for us, and she handles the tourism and the convention center and all that kind of stuff. It coordinates that and sleeping rooms and everything else. So if you make a trip here, plan on staying through this entire thing. How long? It's a couple of hours? Does it take a couple
Yeah,
hours?
it takes about 2 hours.
About 2 hours
do
to
the
get through.
presentation. And it feels like 20 minutes.
It does.
He just
I've heard
is
that.
amazing.
I can hardly wait to have him on the air with me, because when we were talking, he talked so fast, and I talk fast. Man, he had me shut down. I couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Jeez.
And that was good, because he was giving good information. And I want to hear more about this docudrama. They're going to go back into the Washington, Virginia area. They're going to film. And we do need to really raise $100,000. We're going to run it through a foundation, and that'll make it a very nice donation.
Let me tell you, we were actually in Israel. I was over there with the Glenn Beck entourage. That
I heard that you
went
went.
over there. I was there.
You've got to take a few minutes and tell us about how that
it's
was,
just- it
because
would
I
take the whole
enjoyed
show.
Glenn Beck. I miss him during the day. I've had trouble finding him online.
While we were there, Ryan Fisher, who's the filmmaker for
Right.
this documentary, was there, and he I guess couldn't find anybody else, and so he actually interviewed me in front of the Western Wall, talking about the Abrahamic covenant and how what was going on in Jerusalem today has direct relevance to what's happening in the United States today, because we are inseparably connected. The thing we've got to remember is that we are a continuum. That this whole world's existence is a continuum that really had its beginnings with the Abrahamic covenant and God's chosen people. And it's not just members of the covenant, but it's everybody who comes into the land that is
right.
protected by those freedoms, that has an obligation.
That's right.
Regardless of your faith, there is an obligation that we have. That stems from the blessings of the Abrahamic covenant, and to be able to talk about that standing in front of the Western Wall,
That'd be
it
amazing.
was just
I couldn't stop crying
experience.
when I was there. I couldn't believe I was there, and people were rocking. You know how they
Yeah.
do against the wall. And then there were gazillions and gazillions, generations and generations of little prayers that have been poked in between the cracks. And of course, I went through that whole experience. Very moving experience. I did not expect that.
Yeah.
And it was a very moving experience. That would have been amazing to be filmed right there. When did we get to see that? Is that going to be part of
Well,
what
that
they're
will be
doing?
part of this documentary that comes out
Documentary.
late next year sometime. But anyway, I'm spending a lot of time on this book. I really, literally, this is one. I want to just give you, this
Is this the one that
of
ran away?
many gems.
That has hit the national.
No, we'll talk about
It
that.
will. It will.
Oh,
This one is going to hit big.
This book, I can just tell you, there is a national edition that's in the works.
Okay.
That'll be coming out later this year.
Okay.
And it will get national attention.
But this one is on the bookstore.
This is in
now.
Deseret Book now. It's in other bookstores.
Can they get it
as
on
well.
Amazon?
You can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
You can get it on my website, digitallegend.com. Digitallegend.com.
Is it Legends or Legend?
Legend, singular.
Singular. Okay.
I mean, Google almost anything like that, and you'll get you there.
And again, let me give you my number, 801-362-9552, because I am in touch and I can get you to wherever you need to go. So 801-362-9552. We want you to have these books. We want you to be able to buy them. Okay, this is The Runaway.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you about what happened last week. You've all heard of Glenn Beck, and Glenn has he's in the act. He was always in the process of changing and reinventing himself. Well, he's introduced a. It's called Markdown.com. It's a deal venue where they'll offer deals, and these are and their subtitle their tagline is values and value. So in other words, they want to do things that are consistent with the values that he espouses, and also are a good value to the the end user and the cost wise.
Okay.
And so they through an interesting series of events, they reached out to me and wanted to do something with Richard Iyer, one of our local
Yeah, everybody
folks here.
knows.
Everybody knows Richard and Linda
And
Iyer.
Linda. Mm-hmm.
And Richard and Linda have just introduced this book called The Entitlement Trap, published by Penguin Press, actually. And they wanted to do a bundle, an Iyer bundle. And I happened to publish the other book that Richard does, and that is called The Three Deceivers. And in order to bundle these together from two separate publishers, it hadn't been done before using my process. How do you do that?
Difficult.
Well, through a series of very tricky machinations, let's say, we were able to bundle these two books. I got the print rights actually for this book and bundle it with this book. And so we were able to run this at a markdown just last week. You can go on markdown.com and see it. It's still there. And made this at a 40% discount for two books bundled together, which is a very good deal.
That is a good deal.
And so anyway, that has ran. We sold thousands of books during the 3-week period or 3-day period, and that was great. And so we're now busily filling all those orders and sending them out. But that one again has gotten some national attention, so that's kind of neat.
Great, little by little, getting out there. Do you want to talk about fiction and nonfiction, and how do you handle that? Do you treat it the same way? And so forth?
I like I said, I didn't know anything about books. When I got started in this business, I was a printer. I was going to introduce, great ways to print books to people that wanted to. Well, before long, I had people saying, well, can I just have a manuscript? Can you get it typeset and cover design and all these things? I didn't know anything about that, but I started to learn and I started to hire people and started to bring people in and freelance people and so forth. Now I have a full-time designer and typesetter and an editor. And so, we all kind of work together to produce these things. But as far as fiction, nonfiction, I mean, I'm like I said, I wasn't a lover of books per se, but I love knowledge and I love discovery and I love new things. And I have
understand
found
that.
so many new things that I kind of consider myself as a publisher. There's different kinds of publishers out there, and our tagline is to uplift and inspire. And so I feel like if the books that we put out there, do that, actually uplift and inspire you, then I'm doing something that's worthwhile and that's worth the people's time and money to invest in these.
And I
in these
agree
books.
with you. I agree with you. I work to educate and entertain.
Well, so we all have our taglines.
Educate and entertain.
So in that regard, I've looked for titles, or they have found me more often than not, are break with titles. And that's the term that I use. They break with convention in a lot of respects. We're not always looking at the same old thing. There's something called the formula sale in publishing
talk
world.
About that a little bit.
That basically, if you have a certain kind of edge to your title and you have a certain look on your cover and a certain subtitle, you're always guaranteed, so much in terms of sales. But often it's just a formula sale, and it's just you see them on the bookshelves all the time. They fit into different genres, and they tap into people's kind of preconceived notions about certain books, and they're going to just buy, a certain amount of those people are just going to buy them. I have just never wanted to do formula sale. That's never been part of my mantra, and so I've always looked for break with titles, something that breaks away from convention, something that's different than the orthodoxy that we kind of swim within in this world. And I have found that orthodoxy, if you will, is a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, we need order, we need steadiness in our lives and so forth. And so some amount of orthodoxy is a good thing.
Push that over that way.
But orthodoxy,
the camera can see this.
Yeah, I don't know where to put these things.
Out of the way of the bottle.
But orthodoxy, if you will, is kind of a crust that forms over things and makes it hard to be flexible and hard to be open to new ideas. And I have found that in some of the books that we publish, they break with that orthodoxy. They're not, conventional down the line. They're kind of sometimes on the edges, but I frankly think that they're right in the solid core.
Well, I think
middle.
they're what people need, and that's why they've become as popular as you have and why your books are selling. And we're not going to have the time if we don't hurry right along, so I want to move along because you have fiction, you have nonfiction, historical, inspirational, biographical, doctrinal, break with titles, which is what we're talking about. But you've got uplift, inspire, all kinds of things going on. So I want to hit on some of them. And one of a couple of your authors, I've got Sherman Fleek coming on next week, or the 9th of November. And I have Mary Boyack coming on again this week on Friday.
Mhm.
I have had Sarah Hines.
Mm-hmm.
She's come up from Arizona to be on the air with her
Right.
book.
Right.
And they're all excited about you and what's happening, and the fact that we've got them now where they can talk to on the radio and on streaming video all over the world as people find us. So tell us who you think and what we should go buy for Christmas, because we're
Oh
coming
my
up on the
goodness.
season.
You
Put
know,
Halloween away and
yeah.
kind of brush over Thanksgiving, and hello, we're shopping.
Well, I've kind of hit these, and these are some of the big ones, but everybody has their own unique interests and their own tastes. And I think Digital Legend has tapped into almost all of those, or at least a broad cross section of the interest areas. So I don't focus on one particular genre or one particular style or one
Good.
particular author.
Good.
We have a broad range of things, and I'm just going to, because I know our time's limited, I'm just going to throw a sampling of these things out there because some people
this is Fleek.
love. This is Sherman, and he'll be in here next week to talk about
Let me
this.
put that down
put
so
that
you
down.
can see that. I know has written. I haven't read his books, but I read his little. I went on Google and he's all over it. This is on the Mormon Battalion.
The Mormon Battalion.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, Sherman, interesting guy. He contacted me a number of times by phone, and I kind of kept putting him off, and I feel a little bit bad about it now. But
Lieutenant Colonel General something.
Yeah.
His title's a mile long.
He finally said something about how he had published some historical things on the Mormon Battalion. I finally Googled his name, and I thought, oh my goodness.
That's what I did. And I went, oh my goodness.
He's Lieutenant Colonel Sherman L. Fleek, who is the command historian at the West Point Military Academy. He's the top military historian in this country.
Yes.
And I was thinking, and I thought, this guy sounds like a hick. But he is an amazingly knowledgeable. I mean, down to the brass tacks, the number of buttons on the uniform. I mean, the guy knows everything. And so he said, I have this novel that I've written and I want to write. I thought, historians don't write novels. Okay, that's just kind of known, right? Well, he came to me with his manuscript. I started reading
it.
It
would be so dry. You would think you're eating cereal without milk.
You wouldn't think that a historian could write like this. And I'll tell you what. We know, many of you may know Richard Craycroft, who's edits the Book Nook for the BYU magazine and has reviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of books in his career. Richard called Sherman the Mormon Michener. Now, referring to James Michener, one of the most popular novelists in the world, and called him the Mormon Michener. And that's a huge
he's written it that way?
He's written that well.
When I heard about it, I thought, well, this is just history. You're talking novels now.
This is a novel. This is not dry history. This is about, when you get into this, this is about the Barlow family, Victoria and her two twin boys that come over. They're new converts from England. She's a widow, young widow, that all the men are interested in. And she comes with her two boys, and they come over, and, well, sure enough, they end up in winter quarters, and they get drafted into the Mormon Battalion. And she goes along as a washwoman, and the adventures that they have, everything they do, everything they experience is absolutely historical. But you're seeing it firsthand through her eyes. It's really, a treatment, the work and the glory treatment for the Mormon Battalion.
Oh, wonderful.
And so people love this book.
Because I thought, well, this is going to be a tough interview because it's going to be all military. No. And he's now something for our United States. He's some historian. It goes beyond West Point.
Oh yeah, no, he's well recognized.
He's really well recognized. But I'm happy to hear about these books because now it will be fun.
Yeah, no, this is an exciting story.
I love
people
stories to hang history on. We don't have enough
turner.
pegs as we get older. We forgot what we learned,
That's
and
right.
now it's not even there. They're not teaching history the same way, and even in the church. And so it's wonderful to put some pegs in to hang some things on, and that's what he's done.
Yep, that's what he's done with these, and they are
great.
page turners.
Sherman Fleek, and he will be here November 9th.
And I'm going to go into, again, while we're in the fiction mode, let's talk about Sons of the Covenant. Again, Sons of the Covenant, written by Keith Terry. Keith Terry, many of you will recognize Keith Terry's name. He wrote a series of books called Out of the Darkness into Light. Wonderful, sold 200,000 copies in and outside of this country.
Well, let's start with, I met him in Newport Beach. He and his family lived in Newport Beach. We attended the same neighborhood church.
Well, there you go.
Known as a ward.
Yeah.
And he was writing then, and his wife is a lovely, lovely family. We thought we were going to have him on this week, but he's in Albuquerque, couldn't get here. So we have his publicist coming on with this next Tuesday.
Oh, Sally. She's
Sally. So
wonderful.
she's going to come on and talk about his books and what she's doing to help with publicizing and promoting some of these authors.
Everyone is going to start hearing about this book. It's going to be featured on TV and radio on quite a large, a wide basis throughout the listening
What
area.
makes it different?
This book is unique because, okay, let's talk about the title, Sons of the Covenant, Sophia. Okay, it's like that's kind of an odd combination. We're talking about sons. Sons of the Covenant is a series, and it's about Latter-day Prophets, their lives. Okay?
Okay.
Told in a historical fiction manner. Okay, so we hear their life story, but see it through the eyes of fictional characters and real events. Now, Keith had access to the personal, unpublished diaries of Joseph F. Smith. They were given to him by one of his great-grandchildren, and he had permission to use them in this book and in his research that he did on this book. So you see insights to a man who was 8 years old when his father Hiram was killed and martyred in Carthage, along with Joseph, his uncle. Now that affected Joseph F. in a major way. It filled him with a rage, actually, and he struggled with anger problems his whole life. He had challenges with his behavior, with word of wisdom. His first marriage ended in divorce. I mean, a lot of things that, frankly, beset all the rest of us to a certain degree. And yet he overcame, and he triumphed, and he transcended those challenges. And we see this tremendous redemption through his life and through his life experience. And that's what we see in this book.
And who is Sophie then?
Sophia is a fictional character. She's a Ukrainian-born Catholic postulant, somebody who wants to become a nun, and she's medically trained, and so in her process she travels the world because she's being sent by the Catholic Church to different convents and places to provide her medical services. She ends up having quite a lot of adventure. She's a very, very likable and sympathetic character who you get to know, and through her eyes you get to know the prophet Joseph F. Smith as he experienced that. It's a fascinating book.
Oh, great. I'm so glad you brought this because eventually Keith will get here, but in the meantime, we will have his publicist who's going to be with us next week. And I think it's next week or the week after. I don't have my calendar in front of me. Okay, we've got about 14 minutes left, so let's blast through these.
I'm going to blast through a few of these because I know our time's limited. This is the most unique title that's probably ever been published in the history of the LDS Church. You will not find another thing like this. It is called The Transfer. Yes, it's about missionaries who died on their missions.
Oh.
So you think at first glance, oh, how sad, how tragic, how morose would this be to read such a book?
Well, I've heard people say they were on their mission or they were about to leave. They'd been set apart. They were getting ready to leave on their mission, and now they're gone. And they've gone on their mission. So some people handle it different than others. It still feels like a loss.
It is, and it's a tremendously challenging thing for those families. You can imagine, you send your child off, you think they're going to be safe and protected and so forth. The introduction to this book says something that I think is really interesting. It says, in the work of the Lord, there is, although it's the safest place that you can be during the 2 years or 18 months while you're serving, statistically speaking, there's no safer place to be. All you moms, out there, don't not send your sons. The point, though, is that in the work of the Lord, there comes a time that occasionally, for whatever reason, for the work to progress here or on the other side, the transfer is required.
Oh my gosh.
And what's amazing is that this woman, Susan Wood, went out and interviewed these families who have lost sons and daughters during their missions. And the amazing, incredible thing is that these families are just filled with faith, hope, and an understanding and a depth that you and I probably will never have because of what they've experienced. But what they know, that their child was not randomly just taken, but that it was a cause. There was a reason. They've seen keys turned. They've seen thousands of lives influenced.
Yeah, really and truly.
Each one. There's 65 stories in this first volume. There's a picture of each of the missionaries and then his brief story. And we had to limit it to 3 pages per family. You couldn't handle all that they wanted to tell us about their experience. So we've gone now into volume 2, and now volume 3 is in production.
Really?
There are hundreds of names.
Is this the first volume?
This is volume 1. And
okay,
there's
so
two
let me
more
hold that up and see if I don't know if this camera will pick it up. For those of you on radio, it is a gray cover with black squares on it, and then it jumps right out at you, The Transfer, Stories of Missionaries. So beautiful, beautiful book. What are the price ranges for these? Is there such a wide range that I shouldn't even ask that?
Well, I mean, all my books are priced right in where you'd find them at the bookstore. We don't price ourselves any differently than what you'd normally pay. It's going to be somewhere between, 17.95 and 24.95, depending if it's hardcover,
Those are good
softcover, and
prices.
so
Those are
forth.
good
Yeah.
prices. Yeah. This is compelling. This on this missionaries, because I know several people who've had gone through that experience. I've never thought of it just as a transfer. We thought, well, they're going on, they're continuing their mission. But you're right. It's transferring.
I cannot complete this interview without showing you this book.
What's this
This
one?
book is called Light in the Wilderness by Catherine Thomas. And Catherine Thomas is just a remarkable,
She was
remarkable
my
author.
neighbor for many years. Our kids went to school together
Well,
at Timpview.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Great lady.
She's an
Great
amazing
lady.
lady. She's on currently on serving her mission in Preston, England, the fifth mission
It's got to
they've
be
served with,
yeah,
with
about the
her
fifth
husband.
mission. Yeah, that they've been on.
Catherine has an incredible insight into life. The things that we consider just mundane and everyday have so much depth and meaning when she gives light to them. And the subtitle of this book is Explorations in the Spiritual Life. And she takes the most mundane thing that you can think of and she turns it into something that is just profound and transcendent in its
She's making us aware.
she's
Helping us
giving
be
us awareness.
more
She's
awareness.
helping us see with spiritual eyes. And this book sells well with LDS, non-LDS alike. It's just got an incredible appeal to that spiritual nature. Now, I had a call. It's funny, when you put your number on the backs of these books, you get interesting calls. I had a call from a woman. I could probably use her name, but I won't without permission. But she is quite well known, and she had a death experience. Okay, she'd been to the other side. She's written about it, and she's quite popular. And she's very active in her community, in her church, and all the various things that she does. And she's very influential, maybe because of that special light that comes through that kind of an experience. She called me and said, I want you to know that Catherine got everything right. She has been able to, as though she has been there. And that just gives you a sense for Catherine's sensitivity.
She has a wonderful spirit. To be around her is, you feel it.
Yeah.
You
it's
don't
just
have to be in her
uplifting
presence
itself.
very
Yeah.
long to feel it. I know that when her kids were going through school, she was working to get her PhD in our neighborhood and to keep up with everything that was going on all around her. And any woman who's handling the home and helping husbands and following children, it's an effort to get a PhD. And my hat was off to her. Then she was writing by then, and I happen to know her personal story, and it was not an easy. She came through a very difficult childhood, and came out of it in the light.
Yeah.
Absolutely in the light,
Absolutely.
and you will feel it. You feel it in her writing. But if you ever have a chance to go sit in front of her, boy, get in the audience, because it will spill out all over you and you will leave a better person having
Absolutely.
been with her.
When she gets back from her mission, we'll have her come in
Absolutely,
here and
I
spend
wanted
some time with you.
I started to send her an email the other night and realized she was on her mission.
Yeah.
I did send one to the Ayers, and I haven't heard back because I just sent it to him yesterday.
Again,
like to have them
this
on.
book, it is one of my bestsellers. And the thing about this book is that I've never advertised. We have for the first time in Books and Things this round, and that just went out this week. But this book sells itself. I sell one copy. I can rest assured that that same person will write in or order 5 more within 2 weeks.
Of her books.
Yeah. It's just like clockwork almost with
Okay,
that book.
make your Christmas list and get started here, because they can order online, right?
Yeah.
Easy.
Yes, you can order online, digitallegend.com or latterdaylegend.com. Sometimes
Let's get
we
both
have
of those again.
we have 2 imprints. Latterdaylegends.com is the LDS title. It's kind of like the Deseret Book, Shadow Mountain kind of concept. We have the same thing. We have Digital Legend for our national titles and the ones that have a wide appeal, and Latter-day Legends for LDS specific titles.
That just changes a little bit of the dialogue.
Boy, there's 2 more books that I want to do.
Okay,
We're not
let's
going
get
to have
them up here.
time.
We got 7, 8 minutes. We're okay. We're good.
I'll tell you what. While you open this, while I
Okay, the one you've got on top here is.
I want to first of all
let me
I want
hold
to talk
this
about
up.
this.
Okay, the teachings of the doctrine of eternal lives. Oh wow, who's written this?
Well, see,
Is this a number of people?
yes, that's
Aha.
a compilation of work.
Oh, I love books like that. You get everybody's opinion all under one cover. That's great.
This book is one again. I do unique books, but this is truly another unique title. The author remains anonymous. Okay. And he will say he's anonymous because he's not the author. Rather, he's the compiler. And he says that his name is not important. And in fact, if you read it, it is not his words. This is the early founders of this church: Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff, Lorenzo Snow, all of the early founders of the church, and some of the recent ones. He's got a lot of quotes from Hugh Nibley, from James Faust, and some of the other general authorities. And in this, he basically does something that's never been done before, and that is he categorizes quotes. Like Joseph Smith may have said something in the King Follett Discourse, and then he said something else in another talk, but they happen to be on the same subject. So he brings all those together,
everybody's opinion,
and puts them under a single heading, and all of a sudden it elucidates that subject in a way you've never seen it before. And this concept, the doctrine of eternal lives, I didn't really understand that. I didn't really know. Joseph Smith talks about us living through the eternities. And he actually gives a date. He gives a length of time to one eternity. It's 1,475 years or something like that. I mean, it's so many million plus years.
Instead of eternity, it's eternities.
Right. We live through the eternity. And through each eternity, we experience different things, and we do different growth and progress. I mean, this concept of becoming like God is truly, truly remarkable. And yet the distance that we have to go, we are so far. I mean, we don't even begin to comprehend what that distance is. It's multiple eternities to ever reach that stage. But anyway, this book talks about that. It's a beautiful book, beautifully designed.
Okay, what did you just open? Now, all these books are just standard size, but this now is what we call a coffee table size.
This is a coffee table photo book. It's 220 pages, full color, full bleed. Gorgeously done. This was not done on our press, I have to tell you. We could never afford to sell these for what we are if we did these one on demand out of New York.
What's the name of this?
These came out of these were printed in this Japanese printer. Printed these, the same printer that does the books for National Geographic, the photo books and the coffee table. It's outstanding. You'll see it's gorgeous inside. The title of this book is Exploring the Book of Mormon in America's Heartland.
Is this Meldrum's book?
This is Rod Meldrum's book.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. Let me turn it around. It is. He said he was going to do this. He's done it.
He's done it. And it's come out, and it's again, this is selling very well.
Well,
very
I wanted
rapidly.
to have, or I may have Rod on anyway. I know he's going to be on Burl Osmond's show. I know he talked about going on Burl's show.
Yeah, he said the Osmonds
this
are
is
big supporters.
gorgeous, and read the title again because it is. I almost went to work for him. But I wasn't sure he was on track. After I sat through listening to Hartman Rector Jr., I knew he was on track. Okay. This is interesting.
Well, the thing is, sometimes we, the church has no official position on Book of Mormon geography.
I didn't know that when I turned down the job offer from him. I thought they took an official position.
Well, I mean, the church has no official position, right, on Book of Mormon geography. But they seem to have a relatively strong unofficial position. If you look at any of the artwork, if you look at most of the things that are published, you get a strong sense that something's going on in Mesoamerica. You have all the Mayan artistry, the headdresses in the artwork, and so on and so forth, and it really puts us there. But when you look at the prophecies and the promises surrounding
are they in here?
The promised land, and they're all in here.
Because we're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
So I want you to tell as quick as you can what's in here, and then we got to give your address again.
The book basically explores the concept of the Book of Mormon taking place not in Mesoamerica, but in North America, in the promised land. It talks about the prophecies and promises. It says, is this not a land of promise? Is this a land of liberty? Is this a land above all other lands? Is this a land that was preserved by God? Was this a land where the New Jerusalem was to be established? I mean, those are all the prophetic things.
He's mapped this out. I mean, I raised my hand. He's mapped it out. Everybody should have this book. Absolutely, everyone should.
Well, and now we're going in, with next year being the Book of Mormon year and the Gospel Doctrine study.
This is marvelous.
This should be on everybody's library because this will be the centerpiece of that discussion because it really changes your view.
Everybody has to have this book. Have it, read it, take it, keep it with you, give it away as a present. Let's give you where they can get hold of you.
Again, best way to reach me is if you want to write down the number, you can. We have a toll-free number, 877-222-1960.
Let's give it again.
877-222-1960.
Okay, for any of these books or any further information, I'm talking with Boyd Tuttle. And boy, has this been great. We need another hour and a half
We
at
do.
least. So come back.
I will.
You do that?
You bet.
Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it. We love all the books that you've brought with you. We appreciate our audience listening in on KHQN 1480 AM and pat.utahvalleylive.com. Thank you. Have a great day. Be safe.
Thank you, Ben.